This is All Things Fitness and Wellness, uniting industry thought leaders and fitfluencers on the mission to inspire innovation and encourage people to live a life fit and well. Brought to you by Fitness World, your fitness, your way. Visit fitnessworld.ca. Our guest today is Logan Dube, who has over 2 decades of experience in the fitness industry. They've held roles such as personal trainer, studio owner-operator, club manager, and educator, just to name a few. They're currently the Director of Education for the Pain-Free Performance Specialist certification, running various tracks of their mentorship program. In this episode, we learn about Logan's early career as a soccer player, which included international opportunities, before taking on a second career in the fitness industry. Through the interview, they provide key insights on what makes a successful personal trainer and shares their thoughts on how the industry can be more inclusive. Before we get to it, be sure to hit like and subscribe. We have new podcast episodes weekly. Plus, we're continuing our gym and wellness haven tours through the Pacific Northwest. Be sure to let us know in the comments where we should travel to next. This is ATFW. So Logan, talk to me about your early relationship with fitness. Was that something that you were kind of into as a kid, or what was your story there?
So I started off playing soccer. I think I was 5 when I got thrown onto a team for the first time. And so in all fairness, for about 10 years, all I did was move on the field. I got into being a goalie at a fairly young age. And so that for me was how I entertained myself, worked on skill development. I mean, I wouldn't say my focus was being fit. I was a kid, right? But that led to me getting into the gym because my coach at a certain point said, look, you're really good. If you want to keep going, you should probably get a little stronger. It'll be helpful to prevent injury. And so I sort of went into the gym selfishly at first to be a better athlete. And I remember my first workout, my piano teacher's niece was a kinesiology student at the university, and my mom was like, you need someone to show you what to do. So she took me to the gym, and we did the chest press and the seated row and the shoulder press and the leg press and the leg curl and the leg extension and crunches. And I thought it was like the coolest thing ever. And I probably did that workout for a year.
Oh,
right?
That's awesome. Like, you're like, this is my land.
This is what I do. And I was working out with, the older folks and the super young kids at the rec center, and I thought I was really awesome. And I think maybe my weights went up a little bit in a year. And then I went to university. I was on scholarship. I played at the University of Detroit Mercy. And I remember my first real strength conditioning workout. And that was 975 squats. And
975.
That's what it felt like,
Yeah,
right? Like I was like, but when do we switch to the next machine? And they were like, no, you just do another set here. And I remember waking up the next morning, trying to crawl out of my bunk bed, going like, oh my God, I've ripped my hamstrings. My career is over. And I just like those two things are so different. And I also feel like they're kind of representative of the industry as a whole, right? Like,
yes, it's so relatable even as you're speaking, because how many people, exactly that. They kind of get to know their few machines or what have you, and this is my comfort zone. And then you own it and you feel so fucking badass in that space. And then all of a sudden you have somebody that pushes you in this new way and you go, holy shit, my body. Yeah. There are muscles I did not know existed.
So even there, I was an athlete and we did team workouts and we had a badass strength and conditioning coach for however many years. And it's funny because I look back now at that tiny little varsity gym that we had, and it was all hammer strength plate loaded machines and a couple dumbbells, but like no squat rack, no barbells, no, like none of the stuff that we see now in how athletes train. So even then, even though to me it was such a big jump, it still wasn't really, I mean, soccer has notoriously been behind in terms of training off the field. So I think that's part of the reason why.
Interesting. That's honestly something that I did not know about the sport.
I think so. Yeah. I mean, there's definitely some movement in the right direction, but let's say you looked at the English Premier League soccer, a lot of them just spend a lot of time on the field doing ball skills. They think they have to run a lot, and there's really no training beyond that. And so the sport's definitely behind a little bit. But, even looking at that and sort of, I find myself saying now, I wish I knew then half of what I know now. I think it would have changed not necessarily my career, but it probably would have changed my injury experience. It would have changed sort of what I was training for, right? Instead of just lift this a bunch of times as heavy as you can. And that's completely unrelated to what you're doing on the field. Like, I look at that as being part of the evolution of sort of where we are now is, wow, let me help you learn a better way than that super old school thing that, we know a little better than now.
1,000%. Well, and I think as well, people have a stronger connection to their why and their goals. I think goal setting is very different now. And I'm sure that you find this working with clients where it's not just, I want to get huge, or I want to lose weight, or I want to do this. It's like, I want to function for X or Y. And personal training is such an incredible tool to be able to craft people to get there.
Yep. Well, and I even think about when I was at school, I lived on campus, but I still had to walk 10, 15 minutes to the athletic building, another 10 minutes to the sub, another 10 minutes. So like I got 10, 15,000 steps in a day easily going to school. And in the last couple of years, a lot of the students that I've worked with who are trying to get certified as trainers, they're sitting behind a computer screen in their room at home, and they've just gotten off of high school or university classes in that same console. And so even just like, I don't feel like our lives have changed that much, but they also have.
Yeah.
And we have to account for that now when we're training. So how technologically focused we are, how sedentary we are, the types of posture and pain type issues that our clients are showing up with, that's so different than when I started training like 20 years ago even.
It is such a true statement. There's such a gravity to that. And I know often they say sitting is the new smoking. And we are seeing the health ramifications of that. I want to reverse a little bit, though, to you becoming a trainer. So obviously highly athletic. You've started to love the gym, learning different exercises. Where does this start to become a passion where you're like, that's the career?
So I think I'm a little bit odd because I say I became a personal trainer kind of by accident, whereas a lot of people do feel like very purposeful in moving towards that. I went to university. I had a great career there. I spent a little bit of time pursuing pro soccer in the UK. And then I kind of just came home from all of that and said, well, now what? Mm-hmm. And I ended up working at a bookstore. It was a great job. I love to read. And I think I had about 2 weeks where I was no longer identifying as a pro athlete. And I was like, here's a new chapter of my life. So I just had a normal job. I ate a lot of ice cream. And then I went, wait a minute, this isn't going to work out so well. And so I went to a commercial gym, really for the first time in my life at sort of in my early 20s. And I remember walking into the space going like, this is it, huh? Like, all these circuit machines. It was like going back to the rec center after having been a pro athlete. It was like, oh yeah, this is the other thing that fitness is. And I remember being kind of demoralized. Like, how am I supposed to do this for the next 80 years? And then I heard like a spin class going off in the corner with like a nice beat and the instructor kind of barking at everyone. And I was like, well, that's my jam. It's like a team again, and it's everyone in the same room working really hard. So I got into group fitness, let's say very passionately. And you show up enough times, you sit in the front row, and eventually they're like, hey, do you want to teach this? So I got my spin certificate. I got my yoga, Pilates, Tai Chi thing. I did the barbell. Like, I was taking 10, 12, 15 classes a week.
Rad.
I was one of those. And
that's a great thing to be. That's like when you discover a new passion like that. I love even when people discover that for themselves. I mean, that's a huge point of this. It is the best feeling. Yeah. And
it was a new kind of team. It was the people who teach fitness classes versus the people who show up to play a soccer game on a Sunday morning, right? So I did a lot of that. And the by accident part was like, I had someone come up to me at the end of spin one day, and her name's Gail, shout out. She was like, my legs are cooked, but what do I do for my arms? Like, you have to help me with these wings. So I just I looked out on the gym floor to try to recommend that she work with someone. There was no one out there to help her. So I was like, well, I'll show you what I know. So I took her out. We did some dumbbell things. I said, okay, there you go. High five. You're ready to go. And she was like, no, let's do it again next week. And so she showed up every week, and then her friend was jealous and she wanted to come. And then someone else from the class was like, wait, what are you doing with them? And I started getting paid more in grocery and coffee gift cards than I was making at my bookstore job. And I kind of thought like, maybe I should just do this. Yeah. And then I just, I thought, well, I'll do it for a while in my 20s. It's cool. I get to wear running shoes to work every day and like tell people what to do. And the industry grew and there kept being more opportunities to get certified, to learn, to do, when TRX came out, I thought that was really cool. And I kind of was like, well, I'll do this until it doesn't make sense anymore. And it just kept making more and more sense to do it. And then here we are 20 plus years later. And I often say, look, if you want to make it, like, oh, like I'm special. Like if you want to make it to where I am, just don't quit. Like I'm not special. I don't have a degree in science. I don't have a 6-pack set of abs. I just didn't quit. I loved what I do. And if you stick around for long enough, then, you're the person who knows what needs to be done at the moment where the opportunity becomes available.
So how does it feel to be able to harness and foster that passion when you have these new faces that are showing up to take this on?
So I think one of the biggest differences is I learned by trial and error. I made a lot of mistakes. My sort of first 5 years of clients were just very generous. Like I did my best. I don't think there was anything better to compare what I had to offer to. But like we got better over time. I learned a lot from my clients. So like if someone had knee pain, I had to go figure out how to work around it or address it. And again, it was like there was nothing else that I would rather be doing. So I sort of had to find ways to make things work, and I had to learn from people, and they had to tell me what was working, and I had to listen and try to incorporate it. The difference now is we've gotten a lot better at not just the science, but also the communication, the relationship building, the behavior change stuff, right? And that's, I think, really what it takes to help someone is that combination. So it's really cool to be able to say to someone who's 17, 18, 19, 35, 50, like it doesn't matter when you want to start doing this, but it's really cool to say like, don't reinvent the wheel. This is a thing that works really well. Here's what you need to know. Now go do it authentically your way, but like kind of stay inside of these guidelines. And so it's really cool to help people not have to struggle for years in order to find that level of success. Like there is kind of a shortcut to success once there's a recipe to follow. So it's just cool to see that more people that want to make it are going to, if they kind of figure out some of the things that we have to offer when we teach.
Fitness World's 16 British Columbia high-value, low-cost gyms are committed to helping people reach their fitness goals, whatever those may be. Exercise and movement play a pivotal role in supporting people's overall health and wellness, and it is Fitness World's mission to provide the facilities, services, and amenities to help you achieve your fitness your way. Visit fitnessworld.ca for more information. Well, and we know the ripple effect of when we do have people like that out in society. Anyone that has ever used the service of a personal trainer, like it makes a massive difference, not just in your physicality, because I'm a huge gym rat, and same thing, just somebody that would plonk around and I had my little thing. And then when I worked with a personal trainer, you pushed levels that you didn't know lived in you. It helps break that fear barrier because it's a mental mindset of limitation. And that's the individual that's going to push you beyond that. But on top of that, it's the mental health relationship. I mean, in a large degree, I'm sure you hear all the stories where they're at in their life, and you're helping people move through emotion and work it out in this physical way. What an amazing difference and impact that has in the world, especially today when people, I think, are struggling more than ever.
Sure. I mean, I think we have to be careful to be respectful of scope, right? Mental health as a topic, holding space for it, participating in someone's journey is one thing. And determining things, diagnosing things, recommending things is something totally different that we should not do.
Yep.
Right? We have a level of education and we can do a lot with that. And I think it's also fair to say there are a lot of things that we don't touch. They're not ours. We refer out. We can be supportive of someone going through that, but we're not like the lead, right? I think it's important to say that.
Absolutely.
But I mean, the thing that's interesting for me is, say, 10 years ago, we would say, why do you want to be certified as a personal trainer? Why are you here to learn? And there was a lot of like, I love working out. I really want to help people. Great. Perfect combination. Maybe 4 to 5 years ago, we started hearing a lot more. I love working out. I want to help people. Fitness has been really impactful for me in my mental health, and I want to be able to pass that forward. So it was like all of a sudden there became this sort of moment in time where it was like the connection between physical and mental health became a lot more noticeable. People started talking about it. It became part of the, rhetoric or the marketing around what fitness can provide. And I think that point in time is really interesting because it's not that we weren't helping people with their mental health before. We just didn't have the language around it. We didn't have the awareness of how important it was. And so that's like a pretty pivotal shift to see, and it's not going away. It's only becoming more and more noticeable as we move forward.
Well, and I think just more and more people are starting to understand how multifaceted the benefits of physical activity are. And the reality is we do have quite a crisis in Canada with a lack of physical activity. And so motivating people to take that first step, because we know it's intimidating to take that first step, especially sometimes we take the first step hard and wake up the next day and think I broke my body. You didn't. Don't worry. But it is such a journey. So what would you say for personal trainers are some of the more common obstacles or challenges that you see people hit when they're starting out their career that maybe could be avoided?
So I kind of think about systems. That's become a part of what my job has become over time, is going from creating an individual experience for a client and then stepping back and creating a system that allows more trainers to deliver that experience for more clients. And so I have sort of these acronyms or these little phrases that I put together that sort of form the blocks of how I teach. And one of them, when we talk about training, is look, if you're going to be successful as a trainer, if you're going to build a career doing this thing, you have to be able to gain, train, and retain clients. A lot of trainers get tripped up when it comes to gaining clients because we bring all kinds of our own stuff to the table, right? And it's things like, I'm younger, my client's older, I can't really relate. I'm super fit, they're not, that's a barrier. And then there's this thing we've got to be really careful of, which is like, listen, just because you know a lot about fitness, it doesn't mean that the way you gain a client is to tell them everything you know, right? So
right, fair.
If we don't create rapport and trust and a relationship, if I don't show that I care about you as a person, then it doesn't matter what I know about fitness. So the first part, it's kind of weird because you come out of learning a bunch of stuff about fitness, and then on day one, with 0 clients, you sit down and meet the first person, and you really just have to listen first. Like, it's not about, let me tell you all the cool stuff I know, because that's not how we create rapport and trust for somebody to work with us, right? The smartest person in the gym is not the busiest. It's like the friendliest, most trustworthy person is the one who's the busiest. And I think that's a bit of a head fake, because it's like, but I just memorized this whole textbook. What do you mean I now have to just sit here and ask a bunch of questions? I'm like, well, sorry, but like, they're a human before they're a unit that's going to move through a scientifically transformational process, right? And I think that can be a tough one because that's sometimes where it's scarier to put your knowledge aside and just show up and be like, I'm a human, you're a human, what do you need? What's not working for you? I can relate or I can't relate, tell me more about that. Like, I think that takes a little more emotional maturity than just like, okay, well, here's how you do the calorie math that yields losing 1 pound per week. Like, it's just a different skill set, right? Hard skill, soft skill kind of stuff.
Totally. And especially if you are new to a gym setting or personal training, you can see how that other approach would possibly feel intimidating. Now, when we talk about our gym spaces, they're really a place that I feel, in my experience, sometimes lack in a state of evolution when it comes to inclusivity. What are some of the common misses?
I would say I'm interested in that for 2 reasons. For 20 plus years, I was blind to that, even though it didn't serve me. So I was an athlete for a long time, and the options are you can be on the men's team or you can be on the women's team. And the example for me was I wanted to play so much that I from 5 years on, played girls soccer. And so like, there was no room for me to consider, this doesn't feel right. I don't like this, because then it was going to get in the way of the focus and dedication that I was using to get better, create opportunities for myself and go places. Right. So like, I'll tie this back to the gym, but like, something hit me last year when the Canadian women's soccer team won the gold medal. Like, history in the making. It was incredible. There's a number 5 on the Canadian team. Quinn is a phenomenal athlete, openly not a woman, right? I'm not even going to say any more than that, but like, openly not a woman, supported by the organization. The whole world knows they have an incredible career. And somebody said something like, this is the first non-binary individual to win a gold medal. And I just remember like I was happy. And I also remember at that same moment kind of going like, you want to bet? It's
Fair.
for sure not the first transgender or non-binary individual to win a medal. It's just the first time in this one country that it's been safe enough to say
That's
it.
what I was just going to say. There has been no safety around that. And even to this day, I'm sure, even with that, I know how horrific people can be with their words online or in person. And I am glad that there's so much support from their team and the organization, because that would be hard to face head on. But exactly, when you look at decades and decades, this is not new. We have just failed our fellow humans in not providing supportive environments for people to be who they are.
And at the same time that Quinn is celebrated and recognized and is an incredible athlete, the swimming stuff with Leah Thomas and the transgender individual who's in weightlifting and like it's not solved. There's a period of time where it gets noticed. There are triumphant stories and there's really, really tragic stories. And at the same time as we get visibility, we also get less safety, right? So there's bubbles and scenarios where it's okay. And then there's also a lot of really scary stuff that challenges forward progress in that space. So if we bring all of that into the gym, the thing that sort of struck me was I was an athlete for a long time and I worked in gyms for a long time. I still am a member of gyms. I still participate. And for 20 plus years, I was not uncomfortable. I didn't notice that it was a problem. And then all of a sudden I kind of started to notice and it kind of didn't feel right. And I've had for me, it's interesting and uncomfortable. It's not scary. It's not dangerous. But like there's been an evolution for me in my own identity, my own how I live my life. And the gym has not evolved in the slightest in that time, right? So I went into the women's change room for decades without it being a problem. And then it started to be weird. And then it started to be really weird. And then I kind of got to a point where I was like, how can I be at the gym without needing to go in there at all? Because I'm kind of over it, right?
Wow.
So to be in a country that sort of affords me a lot of freedoms, to be at an age where I have the ability to stand up for myself and use language and whatever, it's still kind of bananas that like I go teach a spin class and I throw a sweatshirt on and go home because I can't anymore go into a women's change room and feel like this is the right place to be. Fair. And yet, under no circumstances ever in my life have I ever wanted to use the men's change room. I'm not that either. So it's like you have a building that's been in the ground for however many years that has 2 sets of washrooms. And it's like I feel for the people that own the building. Like, what are they supposed to do? Invest the thousands of dollars to build a third one? Right. But also, like that's a new barrier. It's something new that I've started to see, right? So what do we do about it? I don't think the solution is to build a third bathroom. I think that's a little much. But it could be something as simple as, like, go where you feel comfortable going. And it could be as simple as saying, like, look, we have 2 options. That's not, like, the best representation. But in this bathroom, you can go there if you want to. And in this bathroom, you can go over there if you want to. And let me make it more comfortable for you around the member base, because in all fairness, like I'll walk into a women's change room, I feel a little uncomfortable, and I'm also aware that I might be making a lot of other people feel uncomfortable, and that's not what I want. I don't want to make anybody else feel uncomfortable because I'm there. And yet it's like, you're going to have to give me the benefit of the doubt that like this is just the place I have to be. I'm sorry that there isn't a better option, right? So how do we communicate that hey, heads up, like the building is not the best fit, but here's how we're all going to get along. It can be something as simple as like the symbol with the cape on, because I pretend it's a cape instead of a dress. But the symbol with the dress on, and then right beside that, the symbol of the half and half. And then at the men's, the symbol of the men's icon, and then the half and half, which is basically a way of saying, this is the women's and other change room, and this is the men's and other change room, because it's also not a solution to blow the wall out between the 2 of them and say, everyone goes in the same room, right? So it's like we're at a period of time where we have to find ways to make it work, and we're going to lead with empathy and understanding and humanity, and just the fact that like you don't have to be right, but can you try to get it right?
Yes.
Right? Because I think a lot of the fear that people have is there are so many ways to quote unquote screw it up, right? I don't know. I notice when I do it, but I still screw up pronouns sometimes.
Yep. And it's making the
right?
effort. I have a friend that they're non-binary, and truthfully, I didn't have a full understanding of what that meant. And so I literally just went up to them and I was like, I would love to learn more about your journey because I love this person. And I was like, I want to understand better because I'm failing you not asking the question. Is that okay? And I think we probably talked for about 4 hours. And their journey, first of all, was really beautiful because as they spoke to it, they didn't even have the language around it until recently either. They thought maybe I'm transgender, and then they were like, well, that doesn't quite fit for me either. And now they are non-binary, and I mean, even the evolution in their self and what they've achieved now to this point, because there's such this amazing connection to self. But that was a learning, teachable moment. And I even communicated that in the conversation saying, I love you as a person. I don't want to screw this up. That was literally exactly what I said. And that is such a common fear. But I'm like, it's about communication. These conversations need to happen because the reality is it is our responsibility to get uncomfortable to have these conversations because at the end of the day, what is happening now, and again, very privileged to live in Canada, but we still have a long fucking way to go to make it a safe space for everybody. But you look around the globe, it's not safe for them everywhere they go. And as a friend, I'm like, that is not okay. But it literally is about having conversations and we're not going to get it right all of the time. But that's the beauty in asking the question, why are not enough people trying?
And so that's awesome, and I think we would all be well served by our friends to have the questions asked and the space for the conversation and whatever. But there's a big difference between you've spent years investing in a friendship and that sort of earns you the right to say, are you willing to spend the energy to fill me in? Right? There's a difference between that, and that can be really meaningful. But there's also just like, I don't have time. I just want to go to the gym today.
Fair.
I just want to get my workout in. And yet I have to sit in my car in the parking lot and prepare myself. What's the thing that I'm going to say if I get confronted? How am I going to mitigate that? Right? So like, there's also the fact that there's not the time, there's not the relationship, there's not the investment in a lot of these scenarios. Right. I've certainly done my best to explain and share and be generous and sort of help people where I can. But there's also times where I'm like, you know what? I just have to pee. This needs to not be a huge fucking thing. And it's not taking away from how the person who's caught off guard feels, right? So maybe not as much in the gym because by the time I've worked at a gym for however many years, most people know who I am at that point, and it's a little easier. But like if I'm at a restaurant and I need to go to the bathroom, I'm sorry that the feeling you get when you see me in the mirror or you come around the corner and I'm 6 feet tall with short hair and I work out. Like, I'm sorry that the feeling that you have is like, oh, that's a man, I'm in trouble. Like, I'm really sorry that that's how you feel. But that also has nothing to do with me. And yet now it's something that I face all the time. Do I deal with it? Do I not? What's my reaction? Am I compassionate? Am I angry? You know what I mean? So like, it's just a thing where I guess there's no simple answer, but like, I don't know, if you change the damn sign on the door, it's almost like, you know, a cis woman who walks into that space is like, oh, well, that's different. What does that mean? But it's like priming you for the fact that like maybe expect a little wider of an experience than you have expected before. If you have a question, now you can go ask the question about the sign instead of the person. Like I hate going into a change room and having someone go to the front desk staff and be like, hey, there's a male in the bathroom. Because now that puts a third person out. And so like the whole thing for me is like, you've gotta intake information that allows you to have a wider view of what's real. You've got to be willing to consider what's possible to change the experience. And in my humble opinion, it has to be led from individual human lived experience, not theory, not performative bullshit, not, not trends, but like here's how I understand individuals in the space that I operate are being affected between my members, my staff, the whole scenario. And you just have to be willing to be open to what could change in order to make it better for everyone. And there's always it gets a little bit worse for someone on the way to getting better for everyone. And we have to stop being afraid of taking that first step, because otherwise no steps get taken. Right? Maybe one day there's a gym with 3 bathrooms. So like whatever, but like between here and there, yeah, you have to be willing to get a little bit uncomfortable and challenge the stuff that you know that isn't actually true anymore. It doesn't serve us anymore, and it's like really time to move forward from it.
You put it so perfectly, which I know we said there's no perfect, but here you go.
And I also think it's really important to say, like, look, this is just my experience as an individual, as a fitness professional, as a 6-foot-tall person with short hair. Like, I can't speak for anybody else. I can't say that what I feel like is a solution would actually work for other people. I've thought about it. I talk to a fair number of people. I'm interested. I read. But like, I'm also not saying that I'm right. Just because I'm non-binary doesn't mean I'm right. It's just, I think this might work. I'm at least willing to put my thinking cap on about it. And I am here to try to make an industry that I love better and more accessible for more people. In general, I would say most people that meet me are like fine with having met me. They don't wish they hadn't. So even if I challenge them, in general, we're all moving forward positively. And I think that's kind of the outcome we have to consider.
Absolutely. I think it's important to challenge ourselves. I mean, how do we ever learn in life if we don't challenge ourselves, which is really what you have a whole basis of career on, is challenging other people. And no one's ever mad that they challenge themselves. You get on the other side of it and you're like, I've accomplished something, or I've learned something, or my perception has changed in this new way. And that is a beautiful thing. I'm curious for yourself, 2 decades in this career path, what are your goals now?
So I posted about this a little while ago because the story kind of evolved. I took my spin cert in 2007. And on that day, sitting in one of 30 bikes looking at the instructors at the front of the room, on that day, I realized being someone who teaches spin certs is a thing. And so just quietly in my own mind on that day, I was like, I would like to do that one day. And so I did my job and I evolved in my career for, let's say, at least 10, 15 years, where I didn't necessarily have the opportunity to do that job. But every time I had a job offer, an opportunity, or you could do this, or you could do that, I sort of ran it through this filter of, does this get me closer to being able to travel and teach, right? Like we call it a master trainer role. And so for 10 or 15 years, I did nothing like that, but I kept thinking about, if I teach group, does that help me get there? If I take this cert, does that help me get there? If I take this job as a club manager, does that help me get there? And so over the last 5 years or so, I've been able to get into education a lot more, and I've been a master instructor for a lot of things, and that's basically my job now, full time, is education, teaching courses, and whatever. So, I'm really enjoying kind of being here because I really wanted to be here for a long time. And so I don't necessarily think too far beyond this, because I put a lot of time and effort into maybe being able to make this a reality one day. But I would say, kind of ties the last topic in with this one. When I stand up in front of a room of people and I teach a 16-hour certification, if I teach kettlebells, if I teach a training system, if I teach a certification, that's the thing I'm showing up to lead. That's the thing I'm doing. I'm a fitness professional first. But there's also an opportunity to introduce myself and use my pronouns. There's an opportunity to shift the language a little bit when I teach something. And I'm very much still at a point where I catch myself doing the thing that has always been done. And I'm trying to, like, we don't say, hey guys, anymore when we're trying to get a room's attention. We say something else. So like, I'm actually really invested in just that process, because if I teach from a slightly more inclusive place, then the message that goes out is still the fitness cert you need. It's still how to do the job, but there's a little 5% piece that maybe gets you to think. And maybe someone in the back of the room who is sort of like quietly trying to take notes and not, take up too much attention because they are a little different. All of a sudden they see someone who's kind of like them at the front and they go, oh, it's now a little more okay to be who I am. So for me, I love fitness. I love teaching it. I want us to be able to bridge the gap on fitness and aesthetics and the sort of exclusive spaces that we've always had. And I want us to be able to do fitness beyond the gym. And I want us to be able to do fitness beyond being in your 20s, right? Like the lifespan thing. So I want all of that. And somewhere in the evolution of that, we can bring in some of this other stuff. So I'm learning outside of fitness now because I kind of feel like I know a lot about fitness, but I'm trying to find ways to bring in some of that other stuff. And it starts from understanding that I don't know enough to really be able to do that yet, right? So inclusion is about a lot more than just gender. I'm certainly privileged in certain scenarios, and I don't really realize how we could be better for other people in our community. So I think I'm trying to be a student of all of that right now. But fitness is such an empowering thing. How you use movement and challenge and progress and success to change more than just the size of your biceps or your butt or your nutritional habits. The real transformational power of fitness to me really seems like a conduit to the kinds of transformation we need in other elements of our society as well. So like, I don't know, let's just find a way to do more of those two things together. Because one I have a lot of experience in, and one I think we desperately need more of. So I'm trying to stay open to being able to blend more of them.
That sounds like an exciting journey ahead of you. Well, we're going to end off. I kind of put everybody in the hot seat to come up with something, but I love hearing a motivational quote or a mantra, something that you live by to leave us with today. So what would be yours?
Super simple. We rise by lifting others.
Love it. We rise by lifting others. Logan Dube, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, Chrissy.
You've just listened to All Things Fitness and Wellness. This episode was brought to you by Fitness World. Your fitness, your way. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe so you never miss out on hearing from industry thought leaders and influencers. We are on a mission to help everyone live a life fit and well.